Hi everyone, it's Victoria with you again today, and I'm at my desk in the cabin and I feel in a bit of a mixed media mood. So I thought that we'd put together a really easy floral card, and I've picked out some Cloud9 interference inks and a couple of stamp sets from Tracy Evans to make this project. So let's make a start. I'm going to start by drawing a really pale wavy line in pencil to the right hand side of the card, and my idea for this is to use this leaf stamp to climb up that wiggly line. So this is the first time that I'm using the Cloud9 inks for stamping. So we'll see what they're like. I know that they're really designed for ink blending and like other ink splatter and smooshing techniques rather than the stamping per se. But you can see here that you do get a relatively decent image. The ink is beading up slightly on the stamp, so it does look a little bit patchy on those leaf images. However, I quite like that. It gives a bit of interest to the design. And leaves aren't a perfectly flat colour, so I think it really works with these particular stamps. So you can see there that I've just switched colours. One of the leaves missed slightly printing, so I'm just carefully placing that back over and reprinting. And it's just a case of building that design along that line. So placing different colours at different angles until I'm happy with kind of that vine effect running up the page. I really like these blue and green colours together. You can see on the front of the ink pads there that the colour on the left hand side of the ink pad is the colour that appears on white paper, with the colour on the right hand side the colour that shows on darker paper. So that's really interesting. It really does give you different uses for the inks makers. It just gives you different options for different projects, allows you to use some different techniques. Yeah. So I've picked up the single leaf stamp from the set now, and I'm just placing a few more leaves to fill some of the gaps where that trail runs up the page. And that will just give that vine a more continuous flow to the design. So I'll just put those stamps back and give them a quick wipe off, ready for next time. And I think that I want a few more little details in some of those spaces on that vine. So I'm going to use a couple of water-based ink pens and add in just some hand-drawn florals. So I'm going to draw in some really simple leaf shapes, and then I think I'll put some berry shapes in as well. So I've chosen a pale green colour and a tealy blue colour to try and match as closely as I can to the colours of the ink pads that I've used. It doesn't have to be an exact match. You might even want to, you know, if you're making this project yourself, go for a really contrasting colour to give even more interest. You know, these are all the decisions that make projects uniquely yours and allow you to make similar but different projects over and over again. So similarly, whilst I'm using Tracy's stamps today, you may have other leaf and flower stamps in your stash that you would prefer to use instead. You know, so definitely I'm all about using the supplies, use what you've got. So yeah. Anyways, so I'm quite happy now with that background floral running up that right hand side of the page, and I'm now going to stamp out and fussy cut a few florals to just sit on top of those vines. So you can see here that I'm stamping out that small flower using the copper metallic ink from the Cloud9 collection. So this isn't an interference colour, it's just a metallic copper. Now you can only buy this colour in a set of 3. So in the set of 3 you get the copper, a gold and a silver. And I really like having those kind of traditional metallic colours in my stash. They come in so handy, and actually those metallics do stamp really nicely. This little floral is actually quite a detailed stamp. You know, there's lots of fine lines for that skeleton leaf effect on the petals, and that does pick out really nicely. So I've just taken another stamp set for a sentiment, and I'm just going to stamp that out onto a piece of white card, and then glue that onto the front of the card. I prefer to do my sentiments on strips wherever possible. Tend to find that I have a habit of wonky stamping, so at least once it's stamped onto a strip you can make sure that you get that in the right position. So I'm just using some foam pads here on the back of the florals because I want them to be lifted up from that background leaf stamping slightly. Again, it just gives a little bit more dimension to the card. So I'm just going to place those florals down along that stem. They're only really light anyway. Just popping those into place and pressing down so that that foam pad is nice and secure. And then here I'm just gluing that sentiment onto the front, going not quite central, a bit lower than centre. Yeah, in that bottom section. You can see here that I'm not quite happy with where that middle floral was positioned. I felt like it was that one and the bottom floral were a bit too close together, so I've just taken that off and I'm just putting another foam stamp on the back so that I can get that a little bit more centred, and that's much better. I'm much happier with that. So now, just for a final finishing touch, I'm adding some sparkles to the centre of those flowers. Just put a little spot of glue on each one, and then I've got my box of gems out, and we'll just put a sparkly gem in the middle of each one of those flowers, and this just gives the final pretty detail. The light really catches on those gems, so I think with the slight shimmer of the ink, the sparkly gem, it just gives that extra bit of something. So you can see there the shimmer. So with the main part of the card done and set to one side, I now want a layer to go underneath, and you can see that I'm just using the ink there to ink around the edges of this card. it's only 1/4 of an inch bigger than the top piece. So it will be a very small border that actually shows, so you don't need too much ink really around it. I have used one of my blending brushes here, and it's interesting that the brush doesn't actually apply this ink as well as one of the blending foams that I've used previously. So that's really interesting to know. It's good to know your products and how they work together. So I won't be using blending brushes, I don't think, with these inks going forward. So just for anybody that might have these in the stash, if you didn't already kind of know that, then that might be something that you want to think about. So I just feel like the ink goes on a little bit more evenly using the foam pads rather than the soft bristles on these brushes. So with that ink applied, I'm just going to give it a spritz of water. The inks are water reactive. So I've just spritzed that and I'm letting that sit for a little while, and then I'll dab that up, and you can see there the colour soaking through the tissue, and again you can see that speckly effect from where the water has sprayed. So a quick wipe up of my mat, and here you can see those spray bits a little bit more closely, and you could see the shimmer coming through then as well on the background. And this is with everything laid up. The card is finished. So I really like the plain and simple design of this one, and it really does show off those shimmery inks really nicely. So I hope that you've enjoyed that today. I hope you'll have a go digging into your stash, putting together your own floral card, and until next time, wishing you a happy creative week.